طيب اوكي. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Inshallah, the sound is good. Everybody can hear me well, hopefully. All right, khairan. Okay, so let's get started with the class. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Last week, we were going over the hadith of Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, in which the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam is quoted to have said, ثلاث جدهن جد وطلاق والرجعة رواه الأربعة إلا النساء الحاكم. As that there are three things when you're to be taken seriously, and when you're playing around, they are also to be taken seriously. Three things that when you mean it, actually take place. And there are three things in which, or when you don't mean it, they actually take place. The first of those three is an-nikah, marriage. The second is a talaq. And the third is taking one's wife back out of the iddah period. Khairan inshaAllah ta'ala. And other variations of this hadith. Sanani rahimahullah ta'ala says regarding the main lesson from this narration, وَالْحَدِيثُ دَلِيلٌ عَلَى أَنَّهُ لَا يَقَعُ الطَّلَاقُ بِحَدِيثِ. Oh, he says here, في التصريح وإليه ذهب الهدوية والشافعية وذهب. We explained that last week with regards to the intention being needed, one speaking on and talking about divorce versus a person making the divorce in a joking manner, and how many scholars hold the view is that the talaq takes place. So we learn from this and we benefit from this is that a man should not play around with, he should not joke around with, he should not make fun of talaq. Either you're going to do it seriously or you're not going to do it, period. And if you joke around, you say it to your wife laughing, or you're trying to play a prank, or you send a text message, LOL, or whatever the case may be, then according to this hadith, you have divorced your wife. From that hadith. Let's move forward to the next hadith of the chapter. Author Al-Hafidh bin Hajar, may Allah mercy upon him, he says, حكم ما تحدثت به النفس عن أبي هريرة عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه قال إن الله تعالى تجاوز عن أمتي ما حدثت به أنفسها ما لم تعمل أو تتكلم ما لم تعمل أو تكلم متفق عليه. The next narration states, is hadith number 921, narrated Abu Hurairah, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Allah the Most High has exempted from my followers what they contemplate on within themselves, so as long as they do not act upon or speak about them. And this hadith is agreed upon. Once more, the hadith states إن الله تعالى تجاوز عن أمتي ما حدثت به أنفسها ما لم تعمل أو تكلم. متفق عليه. Is that Allah the Most High, the Sublime and the Exalted, He has forgiven, He has pardoned, He has made my ummah, my followers, the Muslims, exempt from things that they think about and things that they talk about within themselves, in their heads, in their minds, in their souls. I didn't actually verbalize it. I didn't utter the words. I didn't say, act upon it, and about it. Everyone understand this hadith? This hadith is in Bukhari. The author he then states, ورواه ابن ماجه من حديث أبي هريرة بلفظ عما توسوس به صدورها بدل ما حدثت به أنفسها، وزاد في آخره وما استكره عليه. قال المصنف وأظن الزيادة هذه مدرجة كأنها دخلت على هشام بن عمار من حديث في حديث، والحديث دليل على أنه لا يقع الطلاق بحديث النفس وقول الجمهور. وروي عن ابن سيرين والزهري ورواية عن مالك بأنه إذا طلق في نفسه وقع الطلاق، وقاه ابن العربي بأن من اعتقد الكفر بقلبه ومن أصر على المعصية أثم، وكذلك من قذف مسلما بقلبه، وكل ذلك من أعمال القلب دون اللسان. ويجاب عنه بأن الحديث المذكور أخبر عن الله تعالى بأنه لا يؤاخذ الأمة بحديث نفسها، وأنه تعالى قال لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها، وحديث النفس يخرج عن الوسع. نعم الاسترسال مع النفس في باطل أحاديثها يصير العبد عازما على الفعل فيخاف منه الوقوع فيما يحرم، فهو الذي ينبغي أن يسارع بقطعه إلى خطر. وأما احتجاج ابن العربي بالكفر والرياء فلا يخفى أنهما من أعمال القلب، فهما مخصوصان من الحديث على أن الاعتقاد وقصد الرياء قد خرج عن حديث النفس. وأما المصر على المعصية فالإثم على عمل المعصية المتقدم على الإصرار، فإنه دال على أنه لم يتب عنها. واستدل به على أن من كتب الطلاق طلقت امرأته لأنه عزم بقلبه وعمل بكتابه وقول الجماهير، وشرط مالك فيه الإشهاد على ذلك وسيأتي. As-San'ani, the commentator, and we'll simplify, we'll summarize, and we'll break it down inshallah ta'ala. He says the hadith proves is that divorce that is thought about, that is pondered over, that is imagined or fantasized, the talaq within one's mind, one's heart, does not take place. It is an invalid talaq. It didn't happen until the man verbalizes the talaq. And this is the view, this is the opinion, this is the madhab, the school of thought of most of the fuqaha, the majority of the jurists of al-Islam. There's a second opinion that is narrated from Muhammad ibn Sirin and az-Zuhri, and is one version of Imam Malik. Imam Malik's opinion is that if a man makes the divorce in himself, within himself, to himself, in his mind, in his head, and then the talaq takes place. Then the talaq happens. In this view, it was supported, it was regarded as strong by a Maliki commentator and a great author who's known as Abu Bakr ibn al-Arabi. Abu Bakr ibn al-Arabi, not Ibn Arabi, with the alif wa lam, al-Arabi, Ibn al-Arabi. So these scholars, they say, is that if a man divorces his wife in his head, with his heart, she's divorced. And the majority, they say, the divorce doesn't count, it is invalid until it is verbalized, until it is said. Clear. Moving forward, why does Ibn al-Arabi and these other scholars, why do they hold this view? Ibn al-Arabi, he states, or he argues by saying, is that whoever disbelieves in his heart, his aqeedas of kufr on the inside, and those who are persistent upon disobedience, asarra, I have to do it, they get sin. And those who slander a Muslim with their heart as well. He's a zani, she's a zaniya. They make qadf with their hearts, then they say that also applies. All right, and all of this is from the deeds of the heart. These are from the deeds of the heart, not from the deeds of the tongue. And of course, there's a counter argument that Sanani mentions. This isn't the strongest view, according to Sanani. This view isn't the most formidable view. And the reason why, he states, he says is first and foremost is that Allah Azza wa Jal has informed us is that He does not hold the Ummah responsible ma haddathat bihi anfusuha, that which its hearts, its anfus, its nafs, its minds and consciences speak about. And that's clear. Allah does not hold the Ummah responsible. And Allah also said in Surah Al-Baqarah, is that Allah, the Most High, la yukallifu Allahu nafsan illa wus'aha. Allah does not put on a soul more than a soul can bear. And the hadith of nafs, one's conscious, one's thoughts, one's ideas, the things that are in your head, that is you being responsible for more than you can actually bear. A person says, that's unfair. I can't control if a thought comes to my head. All right, so that's above what Allah Azza wa Jalla has given the nafs. Khayran inshallah ta'ala. He says, secondly, there lies no doubt, is that for a person to continue to think about something evil, to ponder on something evil, then of course it's no longer just a khatira. It's no longer just khatarat. It's much more than just thoughts. But now this person is called azim. He has azm. He's determined to disobey Allah. That's not the same as the one who thinks about drinking alcohol, the one who thinks about smoking weed, the one who thinks about gambling, the one who thinks about slapping somebody unjustly, killing somebody, stealing, whatever the case may be, whatever haram act it is. He thinks about it and it comes and it goes. He tries to get rid of it, he tries to fight it off, etc., etc. Versus a person sitting down, thinking on it. I can taste the khamr. Oh man, it's good, it's sweet. I'm gonna go, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. And he sits there, even though he didn't go to the bar yet. He didn't open up the bottle yet. But he's azim. He's determined to do it. All right, that's a different story. All right, and one who is determined to disobey Allah, then Allah has no doubt in most cases, yani yukhaf alayhi, he says, is feared, that he'll fall into that which is unlawful. As far as kufr and showing off, then that's from the deeds of the heart, from the get-go. So that's a whole different story. What's important is that the talaq doesn't count. Another fa'idah from this hadith, another fiqh issue, another mas'ala from this hadith, Sanani states, and this is very important, especially in 2022, in our modern technological age, our age of technological terrors. He says is that if a man writes the talaq, then the talaq counts. A man doesn't say it verbally, he doesn't verbalize it with his tongue, his lips, his mouth, but he writes the talaq down. I have divorced my wife on a piece of paper, he says, then the talaq takes place. Why is this important in 2022? Obviously, text. A man divorces his wife in a text message, or WhatsApp, or whatever app that you're using. Divorce your wife on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, whatever the case may be. A social media platform, let alone back in the day, you send her a letter, or a telegram, or a carrier pigeon. Nah, people communicated back in the day with carrier pigeons, right? You put it in a bottle, al-muhim, you write it down, and it gets to it's out. You put it on paper. That's talaq, all right? And that's because the man intended to divorce his wife in his heart, and he acted upon a talaq with the kitaba, with writing it down. And this is the view of the majority of the fuqaha, al-jamahir. 99% of the ulama of Islam, all of them held that view. And as far as Imam Malik, rahimahullah, he differed, and he said is that there has to be witnesses. There has to be witnesses. All right, so what's important is in 2022, be careful. The previous hadith, the previous chapter, the chapters before that, with regards to joking around and laughing. So you talk to your wife, LOL, ROFL, LMAO, right? Your emoji, you're cracking up, you're dying, your GIF keyboard that you're using, you're divorced. I'm not your husband no more. Don't ask me for money. I'm not paying this month. Blah, 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 blah. Tell brother Fulan to marry you. Joking around, LOL. She's divorced. And this is from the wisdom behind this is that it's disrespect to Allah's deen. And taking something so delicate, something so dangerous, something so important, something so heavy and weighty, and just joking around and LOLing with that thing. Like most foolish people do today with social media. Every single thing is a joke. Everything's funny, everything's crack up, rolling on the floor, everything is a meme, everything is a stupid, dumb feed, a video. This foolishness, this makes no sense, is of no tangible benefit. And the people are watching it, listening to it, downloading it all day, every day. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, whatever the case may be. So why would you play around with Allah's deen? This woman is going to be separated from you. You have children, house, etc., etc. Why even? What's funny about that, right? You can laugh about anything else. Somebody making some cheesecake on Instagram, some recipe. Someone's making this. Someone's doing this backflip. Someone is doing this crazy, wacky, weird, stupid, dumb thing. Laugh about that, but don't laugh about Allah Azza wa Jalla's ayat. And Allah clearly mentions this in the Quran Al-Kareem. وَلَا تَتَّخِذُوا آيَاتِ اللَّهِ هُزُوًا. Do not take Allah's signs as mockery, jesting and joking. Okay? Don't do that, right? So that's another problem, and that's another issue with regards to social media and everything being funny, people laughing and joking in an immoderate manner and fashion, and people making jokes about Allah's deen and saying, oh, I didn't mean the deen, I was only making fun of a Muslim, or I was only making fun of something. What's funny? It's nothing funny about it. You can watch stand-up comedy if you want to laugh, if you want to be a joker. But anything pertaining to Quran or Sunnah, don't make fun of it. And Allah surely knows best. Khairan inshallah ta'ala. Next chapter. The author states, or the next hadith, not next chapter. He says, وعن ابن عباس رضي الله تعالى عنهما عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه قال إن الله تعالى وضع عن أمة الخطأ والنسيان وما استكره عليه رواه ابن ماجه والحاكم وقال أبو حاتم لا يثبت. Hadith number 922 is narrated by Ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhuma. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Allah the Most High has overlooked my followers' mistakes and forgetfulness and what they are forced to do against their will. Reported by Ibn Majah and Al-Hakim, and Abu Hatim said that it is not established. Abu Hatim said that it is not established. Okay, so next hadith, Abdullah ibn Abbas reports that the Prophet ﷺ, he said something similar to the previously mentioned hadith Abu Hurairah in Bukhari and Muslim. Inna Allah ta'ala wada'a an ummati. Inna Allah ta'ala tajawaza. That Allah has taken away, lifted up, protected, prevented, made exempt my followers from the things that they say, the things that they do, based off of the following causes. Number one, al-khata, mistake. It was an accident. I didn't mean to say divorce. When nisyana, I said I divorced my wife, but I forgot that I wasn't talking to someone else, or whatever the case may be, whatever the issue may be. Nisyan, forgetfulness. وَمَا اسْتُكْرِهُ عَلَيْهِ. And the people, they put a gun to my head, and they said, if you don't divorce your wife, I'm going to put your brains on the wall. Right now, you're going to see your brains. You got 2 seconds to say you divorce. If not, we're going to blow your head off. That's ikrah. Person is forced. So therefore, the talaq does not count if a man pronounces the talaq based off of one of these three reasons. Hafidh bin Hajar rahimahullah ta'ala mentions that Abu Hatim rahimahullah al-Razi, he said, la yathbutu, is that this hadith is inauthentic. And the fawaid for the hadith disciples who are watching and listening, he says, وقال ابن أبي حاتم إنه سأل أباه عن أسانيده فقال هذه أحاديث منكرة كلها موضوعة. وقال عبد الله بن أحمد في العلل سألت أبي عنه فأنكره جدا وقال ليس يروى هذا إلا عن الحسن عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. ونقل الخلال عن أحمد أنه قال من زعم أن الخطأ والنسيان مرفوع فقد خالف كتاب الله وسنة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فإن الله أوجب في قتل نفس الخطأ الكفارة. Very, 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 very interesting. He quotes Ibn Abi Hatim asking his father, meaning in Al-Ilal, Ilal ibn Abi Hatim, for those who are watching, who are involved in the hadith culture and have a little more and want a little more. The book of Ibn Abi Hatim al-Ilal is, or Ilal al-Hadith, the proper name, is one of the most substantial, one of the most formidable, one of the most important books of Ilm al-Hadith. And of the subgenre, the most glorious, the noblest of subgenres, Ilm al-Ilal. All right, and it's something that a student of knowledge should read abundantly. And he also quotes Abdullah ibn Ahmed asking his father as well about this hadith. And also, that is an extremely important book, Al-Ilal wa Ma'rifatul Rijal of Imam Ahmad rahimahullah ta'ala, the narration of his son, and the other sub-narrations as well. Su'alat Hadithiyah. All right, so we have Kutub al-Mustalah, we have Kutub al-Takhrij, we have Kutub al-Shuruh, we have Kutub al-Gharib, Naam. We have Dawaween, Kutub al-Atraf, and of course in Ilm al-Hadith we have Kutub al-Su'alat. And oftentimes the Su'alat gives you so much in such a little space, a small space and such a little bit of time. Kutub al-Su'alat janib muhim min Ilm al-Hadith. Ghayatan. Okay, Kutub al-Su'alat. And where the Imams were asked questions by their students, by their disciples, and by their clients. Abu Dawood asked Imam Ahmed, Abdullah asked Imam Ahmed, Salih asked Imam Ahmed, Al-Marwazi, Al-Marudhi, etc. asked Imam Ahmed, Naam. Let alone the other A'imma. Tirmidhi asked Bukhari, Naam, okay? وهكذا. Khairan inshallah ta'ala. And Imam Ahmed, he said, Munkar is rejected, is disavowed, it has a bad chain or chains, and its meaning is rejected as well. And Al-Khalal, which is also another extremely important book of Ilm al-Hadith and Ilm al-Ilal, Al-Muntakhab min al-Khalal, right? He says that Ahmed stated is that whoever says, whoever thinks and feels, whoever believes, whoever holds the opinion, whoever adopts the view that forgetfulness and mistake a slave is exempted from, then they're going against Kitab and Sunnah. And that is because Allah Azza wa Jalla has made the kafara mandatory for manslaughter or killing someone by accident. All right, now, and obviously this isn't absolute. There lies no doubt. There are times in which khata, mistake, and there are times in which nisyan is clearly forgiven. And that's in the Quran. Okay? That's in Surah Al-Baqarah. And the authentic hadith, Allah Azza wa Jal clearly said, قَدْ فَعَلْتُ. When the believers asked Allah, رَبَّنَا لَا تُأَخِذْنَا. Don't punish us, don't seize us. إِن نَسِينَا أَوْ أَخْطَأْنَا. Okay? If we forget or if we make a mistake. But the absolute nature is that a person is never ever responsible for forgetfulness. A person is never ever responsible for a mistake. That is something that Imam Ahmad said is munkar. That's invalid. All right? And this is a beautiful example here of how the ulama of hadith كانوا ينقدون المتون كما كانوا ينقدون الأسانيد. They would criticize the matins just as they criticized and critiqued and scoured through the chains of narrations. And those who say or think or feel that ilm al-hadith is only the chain of narration, that's the only thing that's important, whether they're Orientalists, whether they're Western, progressive-minded people from the Orient, right? Whether they're so-called academics in 2022, West, East, North, South, fulana or fulana, whoever they are, whoever they may be, thinking that that is the way of Ahlul Hadith, is that they only looked at حدثنا أخبرنا عن أن سمعت قال فلان, that's it, that's the only critic. La, that's a lie, it's a slander, that's a fallacy. Rather, ulama of hadith, the scholars of hadith, oftentimes they would criticize the metin before the chain. And oftentimes they would criticize the metin and they wouldn't even look towards the isnad. Because if the metin is batil, then of course there's something wrong with the isnad. And we've spoken on this many, many times before. Khairan inshallah ta'ala. Now let's move forward. So based off of that, what we just read, that hadith would be inauthentic. That hadith would be inauthentic, even though its meaning to a large extent is valid. Its meaning to a large extent is supported by the Quran and Hadith. Moving forward, Sanan, he states, وَالْحَدِيثُ دَلِيلٌ عَلَى أَنَّ الْأَحْكَامَ الْأُخْرَوِيَّةَ من العقاب معفوة عن الأمة المحمدية إذا صدرت عن خطأ أو نسيان أو إكراه. He says the hadith proves is that the rulings of the hereafter, the rulings of the afterlife, a Muslim is exempted, he's protected, he's pardoned therefrom. The followers of Muhammad, the Ummah of Muhammad, if it's a mistake, if it's done out of forgetfulness, or if it's done from coercion. وأما ابتناء الأحكام والآثار الشرعية عنها ففي ذلك خلاف بين العلماء فاختلفوا في طلاق الناس فعن الحسن أنه كان يراه كالعمد إلا إذا اشترط أخرجه ابن أبي شيبة عنه وعن عطاء وهو قول الجمهور إلا وهو قول الجمهور أنه لا يكون طلاقا للحديث كذا وهو كذا. Alright, he says here is that this is with regards to affairs of the hereafter. As far as affairs of this world, of the hayat dunya, then there is difference of opinion among the scholars of Islam with regards to forgetfulness, with regards to things like this. طيب, so first and foremost, with regards to divorce, then the scholars of Islam, they differ on the divorce of a man who claims to have forgotten. They differ on that. Hassan al-Basri rahimahullah ta'ala from the Salaf, كان يراه كالعمد. He used to believe, when he was alive, he felt is that it's no different than the intentional divorce. كالعمد. 100% same. Unless he makes a condition. Ibn Abi Shayba reported that athar, and this is also stated from Ata ibn Abi Rabah. As far as the majority of the ulama, then they say it is not talaq, based off of this hadith. وكذا ذهب الجماهير أنه لا يقع طلاق الخاطئ ولا الحنفية يقع واختلف في طلاق المكره فإن الجماهير لا يقع ويروى عن النخعي وقالت الحنفية إنه يقع. As far as the divorce of someone who makes a mistake, then the majority of the scholars, they say it doesn't count. And the Hanafi scholars say that it doesn't. Thirdly, the divorce of the one who's coerced and forced. The majority of the scholars, once again as well, they say it does not count. Ibrahim al-Nakhai, it was stated that he said it does count, and it's also the view of the Hanafi madhab as well. واستدل الجمهور بقوله تعالى إلا من أكره وقلبه مطمئن بالإيمان وقال عطاء الشرك أعظم من الطلاق. And the majority of the scholars, one of the proofs and evidences that they use to establish this opinion is what Allah says in Surah An-Nahl, except for those who are coerced while their hearts are at rest with Iman. Ata, rahimahullah, he said shirk is greater than divorce. If Allah forgives shirk because of a person being forced and coerced, then what about talaq? وقرر الشافعي الاستدلال بأن الله تعالى لما وضع الكفر عاما تلفظ به حال الإكراه واسقط عنه أحكام الكفر كذلك سقط عن المكره ما دون الكفر لأن الأعظم إذا سقط ما هو دونه بطريق الأولى. And he says that Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala beautifully explained this point. He beautifully argued on behalf of the view that states that it does not count, is that kufr is the greatest sin. If kufr is forgiven, if kufr is pardoned, then of course, if the greater thing falls, then the smaller thing has to fall as well. Khair inshallah. That's the end of the discussion of that hadith in this chapter. And this goes to show us once more is that learning Islamic fiqh, studying Islamic fiqh, practicing Islamic fiqh, teaching it, let alone giving fatwa to people, answering people's questions, it doesn't take place and it doesn't happen overnight. A person can spend a lifetime studying and learning and not reach the bottom of the well. So beware of microwavable meals. Never take soup from the supermarket, something that you can just open up and pop in the microwave, right? Inshallah ta'ala, you want your food to be cooked well, cooked slowly, simmered. Inshallah ta'ala. And of course, every now and then you may be on the run. You don't have time to eat a full home cooked meal, but you guys get the point I'm trying to make. Beware of just pop-up fiqh, overnight faqih, right? Someone that didn't study, that didn't take that journey, that didn't study for years and years and years out of their lives, telling you halal, haram, sunnah, bid'ah, tawheed, da, 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 da. Beware, be careful of that, right? And you see how intricate and complex, and to some people, they may say confusing, it is. Hanafi, Shafi, Ibrahim, Naqi, fulan. He says it's not that simple. It's not that simple. Nor is it that simple, nor is it that simplistic. Those who try to make that the scholars of Islam just always agree on something, unanimously agree on something that's so easy, so cut and dry, and you have to be bullied into the corner and adopting a view or a practice. Fiqh is vast, it's a wide, endless sea, right? And the more intelligence you have, the more longevity you have, the more you're fed and cultivated and nurtured by your teachers, the more sacrifice you make, the more barakah Allah gives you, the easier it is for you to study fiqh and to learn fiqh. And inshallah ta'ala, if Allah wants it, for you to teach it and for you to pass on fiqh to others and give fatwa to people and answer their questions and help guide them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best, and with Him is all success. We'll stop here, and inshallah ta'ala, we'll have a brief intermission and come back for the Q&A session. Wallahu a'lam.